Hi, everyone. Welcome to our session today, Capital Procurement Dollars and Cents, Leveraging Assets at Ginkgo Bioworks. My name is Doug Martinez from Ginkgo Bioworks, and along with Martin Spears from Praecipio, we are going to discuss how we used assets in Jira Service Management to help us improve our capital procurement process, which made dollars and cents. Martin, you want to run through the agenda for the session?
Sure. Thanks, Doug. And thank you to all of you for watching. Today, we will discuss how the Ginkgo Bioworks and Praecipio partnership started, why we chose to use assets in Jira Service Management, what was implemented, and how it's going. But before we get into it, Doug, why don't you go ahead and tell everyone a little more about yourself and your time at Ginkgo Bioworks?
Yeah, thanks. So currently, I am a continuous improvement team member. I've been with Ginkgo for 3 years. Originally, I started off in a lab operations role, where I helped build out a service platform from an informal process to a mature process that improved customer success and satisfaction. The Atlassian platform has been an important tool and resource for my team, and I've been an advocate for other teams at Ginkgo to migrate their processes into Jira Service Management. And Martin, you want to tell us a little bit about your background with Praecipio?
Sure. Thank you. As Doug mentioned, I am Martin Spears with Praecipio. I joined Praecipio in 2017, and I am a process solution architect specializing in enterprise service management. I have been guiding organizations in SDLC and ITSM best practices, leveraging the Atlassian suite for over 5 years. I am passionate about process improvement and enabling organizations to scale up. Doug, I've gotten the chance to learn a bit more about Ginkgo recently and the really interesting things happening there. But how would you describe Ginkgo Bioworks for the folks that are not familiar with them already?
Yeah, so Ginkgo Bioworks is a B2B synthetic biology company. Our platform offers end-to-end solutions. We offer programs to perform a number of services, including computational enzyme design, strain optimization, and downstream processing scale-up. Martin, you want to tell us a little bit more about what Praecipio does?
Yeah, thanks, Doug. Praecipio is a cloud-first business and technology consulting firm specializing in strategic cloud transformations, enterprise agility, DevOps, application development, and modern service management. Praecipio is an enterprise-level strategic advisor across the Atlassian platform, focused on helping businesses drive revenue and fuel growth. We architect solutions that enable our customers to stay focused on the work that matters most, like solving the biggest problems that exist in the world today. With that said, a little bit about how this all started. In March of 2021, Ginkgo Bioworks and Praecipio engaged in a strategic road mapping assessment with the goal of laying out a long-term roadmap to achieving Ginkgo Bioworks enterprise platform goals. One of the primary goals we identified was developing a comprehensive solution for managing spaces and equipment. Service and support teams were beginning to migrate to Jira Service Management, and this seemed like a perfect opportunity to use assets and Jira Service Management together to manage all of their lab equipment. Doug, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you came up with this idea?
Yeah, so purchasing capital lab equipment is a cross-functional collaboration involving strategic finance, procurement, accounting, and operations. Originally, communication was done by passing information between each other through informal systems such as Slack and recording data in spreadsheets. As Ginkgo matured, obviously our processes needed to mature with it, and we had a need for more robust controls, including an audit trail. Along with making the processes more robust, we needed to reduce the cost and time spent on managing the process. So why use assets in Jira Service Management? To the left is an image that was created by Midjourney AI. We use the prompt synthetic biology, issue, form, and automation. So similarly, Jira Service Management gives customers the ability to configure and create object schemas and workflows that are tailored to solve problems. It gave us the ability to build an object schema that could be used to track budget IDs, purchase orders, and the assets themselves. Assets' ability to map these objects to one another made it a powerful tool, and the interface that displays the visual mapping, it definitely enhanced the user experience. Assets paired with the service desk and projects that teams were working in allowed us to create controlled workflows to log and collect data with traceability. Teams were already familiar with the platform, so transitioning more processes to the platform made sense. And lastly, adding in the automation to tie the workflows and database together was appealing to all teams to reduce the time spent manually kicking off the next steps of the process. And also the automation allowed us to control how data was pushed from service desk into the asset schemas. So Martin, you want to go into a little bit further? Why assets?
Sounds good. That was a great explanation of how we got there or why we decided to do this. But on our end, the most obvious reason we chose assets is the integration with Jira Service Management. But aside from that, Ginkgo had been using multiple tools for tracking assets, and the ability to import data from other systems into our asset schemas was a huge benefit. We also like the flexibility to customize the schemas to best support the process and usefulness of the data being managed in assets.
Next, we'll actually move into what was implemented. So at the beginning, we worked with key stakeholders to identify the key objects and their associated attributes. We were able to then design and build a schema that satisfied all the requirements. The total time spent compiling the requirements to the final structure of the schema took about a month. And then after we completed building the schema, we then kicked it off to Praecipio to help build out the workflows. And Martin, you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. Thank you. So in order to build out the workflows, we met with the stakeholders to understand the process. Since we were dealing with capital expenditures, we wanted the workflow to include approvals, and we wanted to understand who the approvers were. Are they always the same, or do they change? We talked about when information would be known and when it is required, so that we could use the workflows to reinforce the process. Then, once the process was built out, we looked at what we could automate to help save time and help prevent mistakes from the human error factor in manual processes. We were able to use assets, custom fields, and automation for Jira Service Management to use information from the schema in assets and to update information in assets with data that was collected through Jira Service Management. Doug, can you tell us how the move to production went?
Ginkgo was able to release this into production on our help desk portal at the end of Q1 of 2022. So from start to finish, the implementation took, less than 3 months. And I think that was a really powerful aspect of the whole process. So next, how did it go? So once we went live with the product, how did it go with the teams? The video to the left shows the workflow in Jira Service Management, starting with the help desk submission that then moves to the agent screen view in Jira Service Management. And that's where finance and operations approve the budget request. After the budget request is approved, an automation runs to create the number of budget IDs approved. And you can also see some of the key attributes we grabbed from the stakeholders needed for the procurement team to execute the purchase. These objects and key attributes are then passed along to the next ticket, the procurement ticket, that's generated automatically. And then the procurement team enters in the purchasing information, such as the PO, actual spend, and other key attributes. All that data that's logged into the ticket is then moved to the schema and referenced to the budget ID. After that, it kicks off to the operations team to actually physically install the asset into the lab. They enter in their attributes, such as the install date, other key pieces of where the asset actually landed, and that gets moved into the schema via an automation as well. The last step of the process is when accounting creates the asset in their accounting systems as acquired and in service to record the depreciation expense by generating a fixed asset number, which is the last object added into the schema and referenced in the budget ID. So as you looking at the whole video, you can see that the process is standardized and follows the same workflow for each purchase. All of the teams and individuals are able to work autonomously, and their work is passed along to the next person using automation that queries the object schema to fill in the next ticket. We were able to cut out a lot of the informal communication being done on Slack and in reactive meetings to stay aligned. With these time savings, not having to get on Slack and not having to sit through these meetings, teams were able to be more productive, which was beneficial given that Ginkgo worked on a number of mergers and acquisitions that happened in 2022, as well as built out a couple of new lab spaces. So what's next? Now that the process is live, we're going to continue to reevaluate the process and look for areas of continuous improvement. Of course, the lifetime of a capital asset is much more than budget to in-service date. And so we look to expand the scope of the solution. And Martin, you want to kind of tell us how maybe Praecipio is going to help us do that?
Yes, and we've already started working on that. We've been working with some of the other teams to expand on this solution. Once the capital procurement process is done and the equipment is received, there are several teams responsible for doing their parts to onboard the equipment and make it functional in the Ginkgo Bioworks systems. We have an asset schema for the equipment that has been acquired, and we worked with the other teams to configure forms and workflows for the process of onboarding the new equipment. As the equipment is being onboarded, we use automations to share information about the new equipment, create tickets for each team when they are needed, and to update the equipment attributes in the assets database. Once that is done and the equipment is being used, there are operations teams that need to make sure it is maintained properly. So we have worked with those teams to help them track the equipment service contracts and preventative maintenance dates. We have configured automation to create the preventative maintenance tasks for the teams and update the information for the next maintenance activity. The capital procurement portion is the beginning of the equipment's lifetime, and we are working toward leveraging assets in Jira Service Management and automation to help the teams at Ginkgo Bioworks manage the full lifetime of the equipment from the initial request to purchase through retirement. Hey, Doug, do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, so it was exciting to work with Jira Service Management Assets, to give, Ginkgo the ability to design, build, test, and grow our capital lab procurement process. It was quick and it was effective, and really just led to an improved cross-functional collaboration between teams. And, we look to continue growing on the Atlassian platform and, working with Praecipio to do that.
Well said, Doug. We at Praecipio believe that this sort of iterative process cycle yields the best results. We work with the teams to gather requirements and design the solution. And as we build, we meet regularly to demo and test it out together. Then we collect the feedback to continue growing and improving the solution. Doug, it has been a pleasure working with you and the other team members at Ginkgo Bioworks, and I am excited about what we all will do next.
Yeah, so thank you everyone for taking the time to listen, and I'm excited to learn how others leverage the Atlassian platform in the future.
Me too.